Welcome to Freezer Milk Podcast. I'm your host, Bridget, along with my husband, Chris. Podcast where we talk about the comedic side and serious side of parenting, life, and relationships. We are boy parents. We have two boys, Enzo and Rhett, with about a 6-year age gap between the two. You can check out our website, freezermilk.com. Also, feel free to follow us on Instagram at Freezer Milk Podcast. Thanks and hope you enjoy. All right, so we left off with the 41 and 3 appointment last week.
Yep.
For Rhett's birth story, part 2 is where we're at if you're just catching up now. We had our game plan. We wanted them. They talked about, hey, this is a Monday. They talked about on Wednesday they would give us the labor shake. But we had to have the baby by Friday or we'd risk out of the birth center. And all weekend I was super freaked out about waiting till Wednesday because of the fact that it spent 5 days being induced with Enzo. So Chris and I, we were guns blazing going into this appointment, ready to go. So we go to the appointment, they come in, and Chris is immediately like, we want the shake today.
They're like, okay, hi, what?
How are you? How are you feeling? We can absolutely do the shake today, no problem. And he was already going off like, we just feel like waiting till Wednesday is stressing Bridget. And they're like, yeah, no, we said yes. That's fine. You can do the labor shake today. We didn't know what we were signing up for. So this labor shake is milkshake, raw egg, and castor oil. And it supposedly works very well within 24 hours. Mm-hmm. But it also can give you, like, horrible, horrible diarrhea. Because castor oil is not your friend at all. So they did the stress test. Baby was fine. They did another membrane sweep. I was, at this point, 3 centimeters, if you remember. And, like, 85% effaced or something like that?
Yeah.
And drank the castor oil labor shake at their office at 11 a.m. And they said, go home, lay down flat for an hour, and then don't be far from a bathroom, because the goal is that your intestinal contractions will trigger uterine contractions because they're so intense.
Yeah.
Just an FYI. They're so intense that they hopefully will trigger uterine contractions, which then will hopefully stay and not go away. So we came home, I laid down for an hour, we got home like 11:30, laid down to about 12:30, got up, jumped on a conference call at work that I had to lead and present something on, got off of that about 1:30, right when everything started running through me. And, whew, the diarrhea. It was terrible.
Yeah, I don't think you were expecting to get a cleansing.
No, full colon cleanse that day? No. It was very, very intense. And I did not have any uterine contractions with it. If you remember,
Yeah,
I just was having horrible intestinal contractions.
Yeah.
Which is not fun when you're 41 and 3 days pregnant.
And you can barely walk.
Right? Just waddle. Oh, so swollen. Remember that?
Yeah.
Gross. So, you had a minute clinic appointment at 3 that afternoon because you felt like you were getting sick. And we wanted you to make sure it wasn't COVID, but also a sinus infection.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because if it was, we wanted you to get on like your Z-Pack immediately, because we knew like, hey, sometime in the next 5 to 7 days, we should have a baby. And the last thing we want to do is have you have germs and pass it on to a brand new baby. You went to your minute clinic appointment and got back at like 3:45, and I was sitting on the blue ball. Diarrhea had pretty much let up at that point. And you kind of looked at me and you're like, how you feeling? And I was like, well, not too bad. Like, I've had like a couple contractions, but nothing major, nothing like the 4 hours of contractions we had. Like, they're very, very minimal, very small. That was 3:35 they started, I think. You got home at like 3:45.
Yeah.
How quickly did that escalate?
In a matter of 15 minutes, you were full-blown contractions.
Yeah. So there was zero pattern to them. We were tracking them on a timer.
Calling the Willow.
We hadn't called yet, yeah. So we waited about 40 minutes before we called. But probably by like 4:10, I was in, I need to like bend over the bed. I need you to like hip squeeze, like push really hard on my hips, or like counter pressure, like dig your palm of your heel of your hand into my back. Ooh and ah through these contractions. Like, it escalated quick. But again, I was still like, oh,
I'm okay.
I'm okay. I'm not crying.
No, you just got a lot of pressure.
I have a ton of pressure, but I'm not even in pain yet. There's no pattern. Like, one will last for 60 seconds and then be 9 minutes, and then one will come for, 15 seconds, and then have another one after it 2 minutes later. Like, there's just zero pattern. So we call our doula, and we actually originally had a different doula with Cherry Blossom, but she had a patient go into labor early.
Yep.
So we called her. She immediately texted us back. She was like, hey, I'm so sorry. I'm with a patient. Let me have Megan give you a call. So Megan gets on the phone with us, and she's like, hey, how's it going? Here, this is where you're at. You had the labor shake this morning. How are you feeling?
No sense of urgency.
We weren't creating a sense of urgency. We're like, maybe it's labor. Like, it could go away. Like, we're pretty good. I was like, I can still talk through, the contractions, and definitely in between them. And it's fine. No big deal. She's like, well, how many hours ago did you have labor shake? And told her, I was like, 11:30. And this point, it was like 4:40. She's like, well, I think you should get checked at Willow. But you tell me what you want to do. I'm more than happy to come out to your house now and just be with you through this, whether the labor is here to stay or not. And if it's not, then I'll leave if it goes away. But if it's here to stay, I can come out to your house now and labor with you at your house until you're ready to go to the birth center. Or if you want to go to the birth center now and get checked, because we're about 30 minutes from the birth center.
That's when you made me make the decision.
Yeah. She was like, I can meet you guys there. She was, why don't you call the midwives, talk to them, and then let me know what you want to do. So I'm like, okay. So we called the midwives, and Carrie's like, hey, kind of having some contractions. They're intense, but she's not crying. She, can still kind of talk through them. It's been happening for maybe an hour now. The midwives there are very sweet, but they very much were like, Bridget spent 5 days trying to have a baby last time. And this one will probably be not 5 days, but not anytime soon.
Right.
So they're like, how far away do you live? We're like 30 minutes. If you guys want to make the drive out here, we'll check you. But if you're not dilated enough, we'll send you home. And I was like, Chris, what do you want to do?
I was like, let's go get checked.
He was like, you're contracting a little bit. Maybe we should get you checked. This is more intense than we've seen so far. I can definitely say that having contractions on a 30-minute drive is not my favorite thing in the world at all, without having counter pressure or anything like that. I didn't realize how much your counter pressure and hip squeezes were helping reduce the pressure on me. Not having them, I was like, this is very uncomfortable. This is borderline painful. I don't like this. Still no tears. I was waiting for tears because I bawled my eyes out with Enzo's labor. So we get to the birth center, we go inside. The midwife is sitting there eating her dinner from her fast food, looking at us this chick is not in labor. She is barely even look like she's affected by these contractions right now. I'd had one contraction while talking with her. No big deal. So she's like, hey, my birth assistant is going to check you out. Or my midwife in training is going to check you out. Megan was there, so we got to meet Megan. And immediately, loved her energy. She was fantastic. Do you remember what it was like when they were checking me?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember how mad you were that they were going to lay you flat on your back because you had been basically in fetal position since we got there.
Yeah.
But I remember the look on the doctor's face when she's like, oh, you need to fill the bathtub.
I don't remember that at all because I was just concentrating on I'm flat on my back, which is extremely uncomfortable during contraction. And she checked me, and that wasn't terribly uncomfortable compared to everything else that was happening. And she's like, okay, hey, you're here to stay, congratulations. And I said, oh, what am I at? And she goes, we don't tell you until after you've had the baby. Oh, okay. So the doula comes in, and she's like, hey, you wanted to labor in the bathtub, right? I was like, yeah. She's like, okay, we're going to fill it now. And in my brain, I'm like, I know you have to be 5 centimeters to stay at the birthing center. I was 3 this morning, or 3.5, 3, something like that. I was like, I'm probably a 5.5. Because I've only been laboring for at this point it was 6 p.m. So I'd only been laboring for, 2.5 hours? Mm-hmm. So I was like, don't know why they're filling the bathtub. It's going to get cold. They're going to have to fill it again later when it's time to give birth. That was my brain logic. We're here for the next 12 hours or 14 hours because I have a long ways away ahead of me because this is not painful yet. We haven't reached labor. So the doula's, why don't you stand in the shower for now? Chris, why don't you go get the bag out of the truck? So you went and got the bags. I'm in the shower.
And then I got kind of in the shower with you.
Yep, and then you came in the shower and got soaking wet.
Wearing my clothes.
Wearing your clothes, trying to help do like hip squeezes on me. I am in the zone at this point. Like I am just breathing my contractions, concentrating on like deep breath, imagine my uterus opening. I was in the zone for sure. And then probably the tub was done being filled about 6:30 at this point because we got out of the exam room about like 6:15, 6:20. So 6:30, they're like, hey, you want to get in the tub now? Oh, okay, sure. Again, you're going to have to refill it later because it's going to get cold, but sure, I'll get in it now because you filled it up and it's hot. And I got in the tub and I was so disappointed because everybody said the bath is like a liquid epidural and it just makes everything so much better. And I got in the tub, and I was very swollen, very large, and this was a narrow
tub. Yeah,
tub.
Freestanding tub, yeah.
Freestanding tub. And I got into it, and I immediately I'm not comfortable. Like, this is not comfortable. Like, I wish I was in a blow-up kiddie pool, because that would be more comfortable than being in this beautiful freestanding tub that is too narrow for me to feel comfortable. Like, I very much have to sit with, like, my legs together, feeling, and I just feel very confined, but I really wanted to try to embrace it. And I started feeling really nauseous. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So Megan, being awesome like she is, she had brought some essential oils and she had a peppermint one. So she got a peppermint oil and like put it in the inside of like a barf bag and just kind of held it for me to like smell. And then came a lull in the contractions. Do you remember what happened during that time? So at 6:43 in the lull, you were fanning me at this point, like with the little hand fan that Megan had brought.
Yeah.
Because you're sitting on a stool right next to the tub that I was in. And I was just leaning back, relaxing in the tub. And I was like, oh, text the dog sitters.
Yeah.
Very nonchalantly. Again, I'm not very far into my labor at this point. So it wasn't a big deal for me to, oh, hey, like, I'm lucid. Let's do this. So we have a dog. And we had dog sitters on call, ready to go for when we eventually went to the birth centers. We figured we'll be there for 12 to 14 hours. Somebody needs to help take care of the dog, let him out, feed him, etc. So you text the dog sitters at 6:43 saying, hey, we're here at the birth center, blah blah blah, please take care of a dog, etc. And then it was about 5 minutes later. No, it was after that, because it was at 6:51. So 8 minutes later, I kind of sat up. I was a little bit uncomfortable. I was trying to change position, and all of a sudden it felt like I vomited down. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. Did it look weird to you?
No.
For me, it felt like my whole body was like,
yeah, you had told me that you felt like your intestines came out the other end.
Like it was literally like the heave of a vomit, like dry heaving super hard, but it all energy-wise going downward. It was very, very, like a very unusual sensation. And I remember the birth assistant and the midwife in training kind of leaned over and were like, how did that feel? And I was like a tiny bit of ring of fire, but nothing major, like just vomiting down. It was just a strange sensation. And you said, I don't remember this at all, but you said Nicole, the midwife in training, checked me.
Yeah, she came over and looked at you and she goes, oh. And she got up and went back to the other ones and she's like, this thing's got, that baby's here.
So apparently Rhett was crowning at this point already at 6:51, and that first heave downward was the first wave of fetal ejection reflux that my body was doing. The piston effect that was actually happening. So my body did it 2 more times and Rhett was out. Like I didn't bear down at all. I didn't get red in the face. I didn't push at all.
You didn't scream. You didn't cry.
I was silent. Like, I was just silent. It was so quiet. And it was very, like, the lights were off in there. It was candlelight kind of. It was a very, like, tranquil environment, but I was silent. Mm-hmm. Like, there was no sound that came out of me. And just 2 more, like, heaves down, and Rhett came out. And he was born in cow, which means he was born with amniotic water sac still intact. So when he came out, they like broke open the water sac, took that away from him.
We got to see all that. I got to see all that in the water.
I did not, but you got to see it all.
Yeah, so they actually kept him underwater in the sac and then broke open the sac and then brought him up.
It's gotta be so crazy.
With your mile-long umbilical cord.
Yeah.
The longest cord that I've ever seen.
Yeah. So Rhett was born at 6:54. Just a reminder for the time frame. We got to the birth center at like 6 o'clock, 6:10, and he was born at 6:54.
Yep.
I was just in shock.
You had the shake at what, 3?
No, I had the shake at like 11:30.
Oh, 11:30.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I didn't start contractions till 3:30.
3:30.
So it was 3.5 hours.
3.5 hours, and then we packed up. The best part about that entire thing was the charcuterie board that they brought out.
Oh my gosh!
They brought out this just beautiful tray of nuts and cheeses and meats and
oatmeal.
Yeah, I kept feeding you oatmeal because you were so hungry.
Yeah. So after the birth in the tub, they help you stand up. And you feel like you're the weakest person in the world because your body's just like, holy moly, we just pushed a baby out. And it's one of the photos that's one of my favorite photos that the photographer captured. Is you had your hand like kind of around my back, and then there was 3 or 4 of the birth team there. I'm holding Rhett stepping out of the tub, and they're all there like hands supporting. Yeah. And it's just the photo that captures like it takes a village being supportive of the mom in labor and birth. So they immediately move us to the bed to allow us to just like relax and like bond with the baby. And I think it's like a queen size bed. But they bring out it's just a glorious huge charcuterie board / oatmeal. And I was so excited for the oatmeal. I don't know why, but it was like the best tasting thing in the world. It was just so good. In that moment, I was like, I am hungry. I have somehow pushed a baby out and I don't even realize it. Like, there was no pain. And that's the crazy part, is I look back on this and I sound like a crazy person saying it. There was no pain with this birth or labor. I truly had a pain-free birth. Was there pressure? Absolutely. But was there pain? No. And it's so weird to say that out loud because I know it sounds weird. I know it sounds, oh, that can't be true. You know, it's just mind-boggling.
It was an amazing, amazing night. I know, and then we were...
So you have 4 hours post-birth.
Yeah, and then you're home. I mean, we were home by
11:30.
11:30.
Yeah.
And home, in bed.
Yeah. So that's like the crazy part with the birth center experience is as long as everything's good, 4 hours post-birth, you get to go home and sleep in your own bed and enjoy being in your own house that day and have your itty-bitty tiny baby who's only 4 hours old, which is terrifying, but amazing. The midwives come to your house the next day for, checkups and checking on you for the next couple of days in home, which is very nice. But it was a crazy experience. And we found out afterwards, I asked her, so how far dilated was I? Do you remember what she said? Yeah,
she's like, you were 10.
No, 8.
8. Oh.
I was 8 centimeters when we checked in.
Yep.
Which was 8.5. 8.5?
Yeah, you were up there. They were like, it was time.
It was mind-boggling that when we arrived at the birth center, I was already 8.5 centimeters. I felt like I might be at 5 because it was so low pressure and not painful and just a completely different experience.
So I guess with this pregnancy and the other one, obviously the first one was traumatic, but it had its moments where it was beautiful. And same with this one, the birth, or the pregnancy itself in the beginning was very traumatic, but the actual labor was not. It was everything. Would you say that you had hoped for or ever wanted in the labor or in the
it's
process?
It's going to sound bananas. It was too fast.
Yeah, it went by quickly.
I think I love that it was super fast. Like, I love that. But it was too fast for us to, I don't want to say like realize what was happening, but I think not knowing where we were at dilation-wise made me think like, oh, we have a lot more time. I can settle in. And then it was like...
We didn't even get the bag unpacked.
No, like the bag never got open. We didn't even turn our 7-hour playlist. We never even turned on.
I didn't even change my clothes.
No, we were prepared for a couple of hours for sure. We barely got to... Megan was fantastic, but...
We didn't even get to know her, really.
We had 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Before the baby was born, that we knew her.
Yeah, but
and she did a lot of stuff with us afterwards, which was awesome. But it was almost too fast. Like, if I could have added maybe 2 hours into it, that would have been great. Just to be able to sit in the fact that, like, we're in labor, we're doing this, like, our birth plan is happening, and, like, we're enjoying this space together.
Well, I guess it's up to the next one now.
But, yeah, that is my 2 extreme births. Opposite ends of the spectrum. How was it for you? Like, first time dad, biological child, first birth experience of your own child.
I feel like it was done and over with, and then when we got home, I was terrified. And I was like, oh man, I'm going to screw this up. This thing's itty bitty. He's making noise. He blinks. I was beside myself with this.
Do you feel like everyone, like, always told you ahead of time, like, oh, don't look down there, blah, 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 you'll be trouble.
Oh, I looked down there. No, it wasn't. It was actually pretty cool to see.
not traumatic.
It wasn't traumatic. And, you know, again, he came out in Cal, and it was pretty surreal, and it was pretty awesome to witness. I'm glad it happened and unfolded the way it did. I know you wish it would be a longer process, but I'm good. We don't need to extend it any, because I had to do 9 months with you.
Yeah.
Going through all this, and you know, there was nothing I wanted more than you to have everything on this one. And
what if you could change anything about it? If we ever got pregnant and had a kid again, what would you do differently about the birth experience?
Might do it at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe consider doing it at home.
Feel less stressed about like getting to a birth center, etc.
Yeah. I mean,
no laboring in a vehicle.
No, because that's hard. You're in the back seat. I was in the front seat trying to get us there safely.
Yeah.
But I think we would. I think I would probably ask that we do it at home and see how that goes.
Were you bummed at all you didn't get to catch the baby?
There was no way I could have catch that baby. They had trouble catching that baby.
He's in a water balloon.
He came in like a wrecking ball.
It's fine. It's totally fine.
And he's been a whirlwind ever since.
Yeah.
All in all, wonderful experience. Like, you know, I couldn't have asked for a better labor and birth. I mean, other than the bleeding, which fortunately it all worked out in our favor, and we have a beautiful boy. And
so Rhett was 21 inches long and 8 pounds 11 ounces. Mm-hmm. Big old noggin.
Yep. 15 inch.
Oh, I don't remember.
He had a big head.
Yeah. Enzo and him both had big heads.
Yeah.
No tearing, like nothing. No. Very. Apparently, I ate too many Tums during the pregnancy.
Oh yeah, they did say that when they were dissecting your
placenta.
Your placenta there.
Yeah.
They said, "Have you been eating a lot of Tums?" Because they're
apparently
embedded in the placenta.
Apparently, there was calcium deposits in my placenta. Yeah, no, maybe lay off the Tums if you're a pregnant mom out there. Try to not eat 6 of them a day.
I mean, we had boxes of that stuff laying around the house because you had that, indigestion and vomiting, and so. I
think some of my favorite moments were being able to have the bonding time post-birth, just like sitting in the bed, holding the baby, you getting to hold the baby. They helped me. Do you remember they helped me take a shower and you got to hold the baby? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they helped me take a shower probably like 3 hours after birth.
Now I can't get the baby off me.
He likes you.
Yeah, I know.
He's a good kid.
He's a great kid.
Doesn't sleep, but he's good. He's got a funny personality.
He does.
Well, that is Rhett's birth story.
Thanks everybody for listening. You can check us out at
freezermilk.com
or Instagram.
Freezer Milk Podcast.
Until next week, guys. Thanks.
Don't forget, parenting is a trip. We are all here on the journey with you together. Thanks so much for listening.